welcome. We've got a great day ahead, and we're very excited about this retreat. We're going to do something a little bit different than, actually a lot different than what we've done before, and listening to the council and in the community and talking amongst ourselves. Not only do we have a facilitator here, and I'll have him introduce himself. It's Andrew Ballard, and I first met Andrew when he was facilitating a board for the Sound Cities Association board of directors, and so we're really looking forward to that. But it's also, instead of having staff do a number of presentations and essentially rehash and summarize a number of issues, I think this retreat will be much more oriented toward a true visioning process and making sure that the council's really talking with each other and visioning for the future. So I just want to encourage, this is a great time for us to really come together and throw out ideas and just be really collaborative, and I'm looking forward to it. We've had great retreats before, but I think this is really going to be a great direction for us. And so excited to have Andrew Ballard here, and I just want to say thank you to our Deputy Mayor, Susan Honda, and the committee. I'll let her talk about the committee she put together for the retreat. But there's been just a lot of collaboration and some excitement about what we're doing here. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today. I think this is the most important meeting that we do as a council. And this year we're going to be doing things different, as Jim mentioned. We're going to be talking about our vision, where we are as a city, where we want to go as a city, and we'll leave here with a vision and with goals for the City Council. I do want to let the public know that at the before lunch we will have time for public comment, and we're looking forward to your thoughts and your concerns. So welcome. So I'd like to have Andrew introduce himself and get going. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, council members, mayor. Good morning, staff and public. And I'm going to apologize to you because 95% of my day you're going to be seeing my better side. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry, but I am really working with, and we're going to be doing a lot of exercises with council. So I appreciate your understanding there. Let's jump into some primers here. So I'm going to do some stage setting to prepare us to be effective and working together. And again, I'm sorry for you guys if you can kind of turn your attention to the back. So my job is to help you leaders come to a consensus. And that can be challenging when we have different views and different perspectives. But again, that's powerful. That's a good thing. So the definition of consensus is general agreement, not 100%. If any organization or a governmental body tries to effort for 100% agreement, they'll never accomplish anything. What we're efforting is that most of you like it and the rest of you can live with it, okay? So that's essentially the definition of consensus. If we get to a point where we're kind of high-centered and not able to come to consensus, which is fine, then I'm going to do a quick tally. Thumbs up, like it. Thumbs sideways, I can live with it. Thumbs down, hate it. And so we're just going to let Robert's rules and the majority rule, a simple majority. Let's see here. So I use what's called the nominal group technique to build consensus. I didn't make this up, but it's a very effective technique. And it involves problem identification, solutions generation, and finally decision making. The point is, just like in your elected lives, we have to move from discussion to decision, right? Because without decision, we set no policy, we give no direction for action, etc. So everybody's opinion is heard and equal around this planning table. Then the group votes to prioritize the top solution, and the majority wins. And you will see how these sticky dots take the process from what could be an hour down to 5 minutes. So our definition of vision for the purpose of our first exercise is intelligent foresight or a mental image of achievement resulting in a desired future. It's the legacy we will leave. Next, the situation or SWOT analysis. It's merely a process of cataloging our internal strengths and weaknesses and our external opportunities and threats, and then determining priorities. It's a function of separating signal from noise, and when we circle those top priorities, you will be looking at that in contrast to your vision. And when we do goal setting, the job will be to bridge the gap from where you are today to what your vision of a positive future is in 5 years. So that's why it's all very sequential. The traditional definition of a goal, and we may change that a bit, we'll do some stage setting when we get to goal setting. It's a specific, measurable accomplishment or target that's designed to guide city priorities and work plans. So, I want to share the strategic planning model. So we're going to start with vision, right? And that articulates tomorrow, where we're going to be tomorrow. The SWOT analysis identifies where we are today. It's going to be a current accounting of where we are in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And essentially, there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And bridging that gap is the purpose of strategic planning. So your vision informs the what. And in this case, the what are the goals that you'll be establishing, what you want to accomplish. Bridging the gap is about defining the how you'll get there, and that's strategy. But today, you can see I've highlighted only the 3 areas that we're focused on today. The strategy, or the how we achieve council goals, can be determined by the mayor and his staff, or it can be determined by another council session, whether it be a study session or a workshop, however you conduct your business. But I want to be really clear that we're not getting into developing strategy. We're setting council goals, but we're doing it based on being informed on where we are and where we want to be. So everything we do in the morning sets the stage for our afternoon goal setting. Any questions about that? Really straightforward, but I have been known to confuse people. So, if there are no questions, finally, we've got to the point where we're going to jump into our first exercise. But I need to prime the exercise. So, qualities of a well-crafted vision statement. The time orientation is longer, okay? So, work plans can be very focused within a budget cycle, but a vision has a longer shelf life. A vision statement is designed to be short and very, very easy to recall. It communicates the city's desired future, the legacy that they want to leave. Developing a vision requires that you abandon your current reality. This is the one part of strategic planning where you don't worry about, is it feasible, or how are we going to get there? Because if you're doing that, then you're getting stuck and you can't really vision. So we want you to think out of the box, think really big, and don't worry how we get there. So again, think about the legacy you will leave. This is a really high level of thinking. So here is the actual, I call it a headlines exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm headlines that are 5 years out. I want you to think at 2023, the end of that fiscal cycle for you, and I want you to think about the amazing headlines the press is going to be writing about the city of Federal Way and its just amazing accomplishments, or what an amazing place it is to, work, live, play, however you want to define that. So we're going to be writing headlines. Another reason we write headlines is that the average headline is between 4 and 7 words. And so the beginning of the exercise, we're not writing vision statements. We're only writing very short, concise headlines that communicate your idea, your big idea. The media will be writing about the city of Federal Way and the amazing accomplishments in these really short 4 to 7 word phrases. And brainstorming is very rapid. We don't discuss or judge. We just go through the process very quickly. After that, and literally the brainstorming will take us probably less than 10 minutes. I'd like to fill out a sheet. A tightly bulleted sheet will hold 25 headlines. If you've got more in you and you want to go to a second page, that's fine. That's up to you. Typically, we start slowing down after 20 or so. But the second step is we're going to take a look at this and consolidate it. So after 4 rewrites, we're going to abandon our work, and if you guys want to play with it beyond that, you can do that. But it doesn't usually produce a better product. So who's going to start us with our first short headline?
Okay. Federal Way just got another Fortune 500 company to move to the city.
Excellent. I love it because, and I truncated it a bit, but it's really short and it's really big. That's a worthy headline. Awesome. Who's next? Yes.
The Technology Center of South King County.
Technology Center of South Puget Sound?
South King County.
South King County. Thank you. Excellent. I think you had your hand up, Jesse?
Welcoming city with diverse business opportunities.
Excellent.
Andrew.
So you're looking for headlines of stories that
Oh.
will appear 5 years from today.
Exactly. So
Sound Transit, light rail station opens early.
And under budget.
I was thinking
now, we're not gaming whether it's feasible or not, because that's not visioning. Yes, sir. Martin?
Federal Way voted #1 in the nation to work, play, and live. Work and play. Yeah.
I love it. You're thinking really big. You are not hampered by anything. That is really good. No, that's what visioning is. Live, work, and play. Excellent. Big, big visions. Awesome.
Okay, I've got another one.
Okay, let's hear it.
Federal Way is seen as the leading city, safe city in King County.
Leading safe city in King County. Excellent. Great.
Yes.
Hey, since we're about halfway through the list, I want to make sure those that haven't had a contribution, perfect. Linda?
Federal Way, the best place to raise your family.
Awesome. Yeah.
Federal Way becomes an apprenticeship hub for the region.
Top 100 cities to live in America.
Say that again?
Top 100.
Perfect.
Yeah, Federal Way is the most inclusive city in the world.
Great. Susan?
Federal Way opens the largest state park within a city jurisdiction.
Jesse?
Okay. Federal Way is most culture responsive city in the nation.
Federal Way is the most culturally responsive city in the nation. I've got room for one more.
How about businesses flock to Federal Way for its great business environment?
Okay.
Federal Way is the new center of, Federal Way is the head of the newest county in Washington State. You know, get out of King County, become our own county.
Say that again for me.
I don't know if I can.
Are you saying Federal Way's created its own county?
Federal Way is the center of the newest county in the state of Washington.
Some of us?
I can lower it when you vote. So the process here is to essentially narrow down our list by grouping or deleting common concepts. For instance, we have 2 bullets up here that are both around homeless. So we don't want you dividing your dots over similar concepts. So what we do in that case is choose the anchor concept, or we think the headline that is the most important. So I'm just going to read these really quickly, and I want you to think about consolidation and duplication. Federal Way got a new Fortune 500 company to locate here. Federal Way known as the Tech Center of South King County. And by the way, once you vote on a headline, doesn't mean that you can't pull words of it, other headlines. Like you might say, hey, this is great, but we're going to say in the country or whatever. You think really big, however you want to do it. Most welcoming city with diverse business opportunities. Sound Transit Station opens early downtown. Federal Way voted number one city in the nation to live, work, and play. Federal Way seen as the leading safe city in King County. So there's a couple here maybe dealing with safety and crime and that kind of thing, and that could be a consolidation as well. University of Washington Federal Way campus opens in downtown. Federal Way is the best place to raise your family. Federal Way becomes apprenticeship capital of the region. I had to kind of truncate some of these, but as long as we understand the concept and the intent, we'll be fine. Federal Way was voted in the top 100 cities in America. Federal Way creates a homeless solution. Federal Way is the most inclusive city in the world. Federal Way opens largest state park within city limits. Everybody gets free ice cream on Saturdays, starting at 3:30 today. Isn't that when we break? We actually could make that happen in this room, I bet. Federal Way, most culturally responsive city in the nation. Federal Way hosts the Olympics. Do we want summer or winter Olympics here?
Both.
Both. Oh, I love it. You guys are thinking the right way. Federal Way, known as being responsive to its citizens. Federal Way has a 100% high school graduation rate. King County looks to Federal Way to solve major issues like homelessness, opioid addiction, crime, you know, the big three in economic development, right? Federal Way is the center of the newest county in Washington State. Federal Way has the best school district in the state. So here's another potential duplicate. We've got graduations in school districts. So these are the things I want you to think about in terms of consolidation. Federal Way has the fewest prisoners in the state. Federal Way is the most connected city in the country. And I think, Mark, you were talking that in terms of human connection? So people don't think of it in terms of transportation infrastructure.
Technology, right.
So I'm putting human and tech, so we're clear on the intent.
Human.
Not tech, just human. Got it. Okay. Got it. Not transportation infrastructure, not technology infrastructure. It's human connectivity. So I'm going to ask my 8 electeds, whom I am serving today, to identify where we're going to consolidate. I gave you 3 examples, but you might see others. So which one do you think gives us the beginning of the best vision statement? Safe cities?
Yeah.
It feels a little better, doesn't it? Okay. Okay. And I think the other contribution, I think that they're enough different that we'll let the votes fly where they may. Did you have something else, Jim? Okay. So you're going to use just one strip of the 1, 2, 3. The rest of them will be used for later. We're not talking about the 4 strips. You've got a 1, a 2, and a 3. You're going to spend the bullet with the number 1 on it on your favorite vision concept. And then you're going to place, you're going to vote number 2 on your second favorite and 3 on your third. Now, by the way, these dots are weighted. So when I tally, your 1 gets 3 points, the 2 gets 2 points, and the 3 only gets 1 point. So you really want to think about your first, second, and third choice. Now, because we're going to have a lot of dots, obviously, we're not voting on anything with a line through it, but you're voting directly under the bullet that you want to vote on. And then we'll go from left to right. If people are doing sideways on both sides, I don't always tabulate correctly. So if I can have you vote directly underneath. And then the last rule is that you can't put more than 1 dot on a bullet. You can't stack the deck. There's always one in the room, Susan. So you have to spend your 3 bullets, your 3 dots on 3 separate bullets. Okay, so let's take a look here. You had 2 dominant winners within 1 vote apart, so I put them both up here. The number 1 vote getter at 14 combined votes is the most inclusive, connected, and culturally responsive city, ... King County, the state, the country, whatever you want to put there. But typically, we would fill that out. And at 13 votes, Federal Way is seen as the safest city in King County.
Can't we put safest up on the top one?
We can. That's why I put them both up there. So our last step is to take these clear winners. The third place winner was 40% fewer votes than first. So these are the dominant themes. What's amazing is that there's a real consensus there. So absolutely. So now what we're going to do is to begin to rewrite. I'm going to ask you to access the memory of some of those previous statements. Very short, concise, easy to remember. So to Dee Dee's point, we absolutely can combine. Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, what was number 3?
Number 3, at only 10 votes.
Businesses flock to Federal Way for the great business environment.
Yeah, businesses flock to Federal Way for the great business environment.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You bet. So we've got this whole notion of being the most responsive. I mean, we're inclusive, we're connected, and we're culturally responsive city. And to Dee Dee's point, we could include the safest. At this point, I will entertain a one-sentence vision statement just to kind of kick us off.
Just wanna-
Okay.
Let's combine these first, okay?
Why don't you give us our first shot at this? Remember, I said it could easily take 3 or 4 rewrites. So
Well, I
why
just
don't
thought, I just put safest in the top
Yeah.
one.
How about the safest?
The most inclusive, connected, culturally responsive, safest city in King County.
What do you think about throwing business friendly in there?
That's getting too long.
Okay.
Well,
Federal Way is the most inclusive, connected, culturally responsive, and safe city in the region.
I think we need to have business friendly somewhere because we want to draw businesses here and we want to keep businesses here.
yeah. These are values, though, that I think businesses would be attracted to.
To wanna come.
So we could have that as a bullet point underneath it being business-friendly, but I think creating a value as far as this is who we are, I mean, then that's, I think there's some value to that.
And why you'd want to come to Federal Way to open up a business and do business here in Federal Way.
And I want to take your attention back to these examples. Again, I fear that we're just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink here, and that is not a vision statement. The most elegant one is I just saying one thing: we're the most desired and successful premium car brand, or we are regarded for the best and most sought-after resort management company, or that we are most admired for our people, partnerships, and performance.
And I think what we've got up here is what businesses would look at.
Right.
I think that's what Mark was
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah.
well, I'm agreeing with Mark.
Okay.
One thing I would add is I think having 4 adjectives to describe is a little bit much. When we say inclusive, connected, culture responsive, safe, you kind of get lost in translation of like.
I would agree.
I think
There's a
the
lot there.
3 is a little bit better, so that's the only reason why.
Which one would you drop?
I would probably drop connected and say inclusive, culture responsive, and safe, but I don't.
Let me
if I
read it
choose.
without the connected word, just to tighten it up a little bit. Federal Way is the most exclusive, culturally responsive.
Inclusive.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what did I say?
Exclusive.
Yeah, I got that bass backwards, didn't I? I'm going to bring in my double. He's going to finish out. Federal Way is the most inclusive, culturally responsive, and safe city in the region.
That's where I'm at.
Jesse? Actually, you've already chimed in. You
Yeah,
prefer the
the
will
only-
be.
The only reason I'll say will be is because I think it's like an active verb saying will be, so everyone has a part in making it that so. Whereas, I understand where Mark's saying too, because I do like is, and you're saying it and speaking it into existence, but at the same time, I think it lets people off the hook when they see that, like, oh, it's already there, we don't have to work towards it. So I think it's an active verb.
Excellent. It's active versus passive. It absolutely is. Where are you laying
Well, I
in
have
this?
a different opinion. I like this statement. If I am somebody who does not live in this city and planning to move into this city, I don't want to wait until the city become inclusive, responsive.
You want it
before
to
I
be
move.
that way before you move in.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So this statement right here, Federal Way is the most inclusive, responsive. That attract me to the city.
But we run the risk if we, that we run the risk of saying, if we say declaratively we
Right.
are X and we're not, this exercise is going to be an exercise in ridicule.
Right. Oh, and that's
Yeah.
what the conversation is about.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is ask the binary question. Everybody has to vote, and you can only vote for one. First, and we're only voting on one thing, Federal Way is the most or will be the most. Those are the decisions. I don't want to wordsmith beyond that, because you don't want to wordsmith something that may not become the choice. So does everybody understand the vote? So those of you that prefer Federal Way is the most, please raise your hand. Okay, you've made a decision. Federal Way will be the most inclusive, responsive, and safe city in the region.
2 to 5.
Okay, job well done.
Okay.
Again, I don't think I can overstate how impressed I am with your work. Vision statement. Federal Way will be the most inclusive, responsive, and safe city in the region. Boom. Drop the mic. Let's go home. Okay, no, we still have work to do. So that is our North Star for the rest of the day, right? That's our aspiration for tomorrow. What we're going to do now is take a head out of the sand, candid stock of where we are today. And I'm going to unpack the SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis, also referred to as a situation analysis. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to list our strengths and weaknesses, and you can see by the PowerPoint, those are internal conditions within the city's control. Okay? You control your staff, council controls policy. There are things within your control. And we as a city, and by the way, this SWOT analysis is not swatting the council. It's swatting the city in general, just to be really clear. This isn't about an individual or a separate body. This is the macro version of Federal Way. And so we have strengths. We also have weaknesses. I've never run into a city or any jurisdiction or organization that didn't have weaknesses. Then we're going to go external, and that involves listing our opportunities and threats. And you can see those are external conditions outside of our control, right? We can't control the economy. We can't control unfunded federal mandates that could cause risk, right? So there's a lot of things in the environment we can't control. But we still can respond to those. And so the purpose of doing a SWOT analysis, I've already set it up here, is we're going to do a short list of each of those 4 categories. And then you're going to prioritize those. The reason we prioritize is to separate signal from noise. We want to focus on taking action on and developing goals around the short set of conditions that have or can have the greatest impact on our city, right? And that's why we do the sticky dots. So after we go through all 4 of those lists, then we will go ahead and prioritize the top conditions. And I will circle those top conditions, and they will be just to the side of the vision statement, so we can see where we are today versus where we want to go tomorrow, and that will inform our goal setting session. So to be clear, cataloging those 4 lists, strengths, weaknesses internally, opportunities and threats externally, are not the end game. They are merely a means to an end. The end is to develop a short set of assets and liabilities that drive our goal-setting process. Pardon me. So, we're going to start off with the internal conditions. Oh, and by the way, I have some primers for you. So here are 8 internal primers. If anybody took marketing, you'll see the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. Our product is, in fact, our city. And then you have infrastructure conditions: facility, finance, people, technology. This list of internal primers is not designed to limit your thinking. It's designed to stimulate your thinking. You can easily come up with conditions outside of those 8 primers. I have those up there because 95% of everything we hear is kind of shows up here. Sometimes for some of my not-for-profit and government clients, they have a little bit of heartburn of the product, price, place, promotion. So you can think about the price of doing business. Place, quality of place. Promotion. We don't use marketing in government. We use outreach communications. So that's what promotion would be. Product. Our product is defined by our vision. We will be the most inclusive, responsive, and safe city in the region. And if we did ice cream every Saturday, I'd probably move down here. That sounds kind of fun. So we're going to focus on those to get ideas, but we're not going to limit our thinking there. The last thing I'll share before we get going is that we all have to work within constraints. Every organization, entity, enterprise, and jurisdiction does. So I'm only allowing you a maximum of 8 bullets for all 4 of those lists, because I want you to focus on the big things that have impact on our city, our citizens, our businesses, etc., and not get down into the weeds. Every once in a while, we'll have 8 and somebody else will come up with a brilliant idea, in which case we would have to decide if it warrants crossing one of them out. We really got to stick to this, because if we keep moving the line in the sand, we'll never get anything done. Constraints I look at from a business perspective are quite healthy. Pardon me. So, any questions about this exercise and how we're starting with internal strengths and weaknesses? At the end of the day, we want to capitalize on our strengths and leverage our opportunities and shore up against our weaknesses and defend against our threats. That's the whole point. So, who's going to start off with our first major strength? Yes?
I think one of the strongest strengths in Federal Way is our people, our citizens.
Awesome.
Amazing staff.
Pardon me? Our staff, our city staff?
Location?
Our amenities,
You guys are doing great. Let me, anybody see a black marker? I'm missing, well, this is the one I just, oh, it's in my shirt pocket. That is rich. So our location, I love where you're going with this because they are all leverageable,
amenities.
our amenities. Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, our parks, our movie nights, our performing arts and event center, our arts, the quality of life aspects.
Dumas Bay.
Dumas Bay, the chefs.
So I took those examples and I put at the end amenities.
Yep.
The reason I asked for more specificity is because we want to be able to use this to set goals. So, excellent. Yes,
Our professional groups,
Our
clubs.
got it. Our professional groups and clubs? Got it.
Also the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Can we lump them into
Yes.
that, just
Yeah.
association? Because I'm trying to Okay, so there's no citizen input at this point?
Yeah.
That's okay. So we got to stick with the rules. We have That's okay. It's my job to just make sure that we maintain kind of our standard operating procedures. So I really appreciate your understanding and respect of those rules. So, yes.
Great neighborhoods. Oh, did I get you? Is that what you were going to say?
No,
Our streets.
By the way, I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to share. So if you've already got something up here, let me get people that haven't got something. Yes?
I think our tax base, tax structure is still relatively low compared to the neighbor cities.
So we've got a favorable tax structure. Got it.
Depends upon the gender.
Well, you are not having any trouble coming up with things. We've only got one bullet left. Is there someone that doesn't have anything up here?
Jesse.
Jesse, you're up, my friend.
Environment or proximity to land, water.
Would that be the same as location?
I get,
Deanie had
Let me
something
add
really
to that.
important.
Well, she's already got stuff up
I know,
here.
but she's got something that's really important.
Okay, hold on just a second. So Jesse, are you okay? Her input's no more important than yours, though, just to be clear. But we're equally important. Let me finish this here. Environment,
yeah, proximity to,
Yeah, Deanie.
you know, so that's good under location, yeah.
Dee Dee.
I was going to talk about our business community.
Okay,
It's
we've got a
very-
really solid business community.
Well, we have, but we need to work to keep it also.
Andrew,
Okay, well, that gets into the goal setting.
But
Yeah.
what she said before,
roads.
which was the road/infrastructure, and that
Yeah.
is something, do we already?
That could be under amenities.
Yeah. could be under amenities.
Would you like me to add infrastructure to that?
Yeah. Amenities and infrastructure.
Yeah, because our roads are the best in the
Yeah.
county.
because
We
Andrew, when you
invested
came to Federal Way, I'm pretty sure you didn't hit a road, yeah,
Say that again?
pothole. I'm sure when you came into Federal Way, you didn't see or ride through a pothole.
I don't
wasn't paying.
remember experiencing anything like that.
It was very early in the morning.
That's still good.
There you go.
And you never will.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have 8 filled out, but before we move on, is there another big idea that might supplant one of these?
Big idea.
You know, a big strength. And again, remember, this is designed to inform our goal-setting session this afternoon. And I'm not begging for more input. We've hit our 8, and it's great what we've got here. I'm going to read it out loud so everybody in the room can hear it. The 8 strengths are our citizens, our city staff, our location, the environment, the water, everything that we've got here. Our infrastructure, including parks, amenities, programs, all of that. It's kind of a big category. We're going to put it under infrastructure and amenities. Our professional groups, associations, and clubs, great neighborhoods, favorable tax structure, and we've got a great business community. Yes?
We have good schools.
Pardon me?
We have good schools.
Okay.
So, but I don't know what we could take off.
We don't control the schools, though.
No, but it's when people are looking to move into Federal Way or bring their businesses here, they look at the schools,
That's true, but the grades are pretty low.
but they're working on it.
Absolutely. No, I'm,
Well, I tell you what, and it's not that one's right or one's wrong, but this is informing a goals exercise. And to Mark's point, you set goals based on things you have control over.
Okay.
It's not that that's bad, and I completely agree that schools is one of the first things that they look at. But anyway,
So I'm just going to kind of think out loud here. So on that list, to my colleagues, on that list, we have quality of life measures in there. We have infrastructures in there. I'm just trying to think, I'm just trying to brainstorm out loud. I'm trying to think what else is, what's
are you
another
sensing
strength?
we're missing something?
I don't know, I'm just kind of talking with my colleagues to see if there's any other things that we're.
Kind of hits everything in the city.
Tax, finance, so we got finance. Technology, not yet. I'm just thinking, brainstorming out loud.
Before we vote, we can take a last look at these, but I think we've got a solid list. Could I have your help?
Yeah.
So if we could put it close to the flag, but not behind it?
Okay.
I actually set them up in different sequence than we actually do these. I'll explain that when we vote. I'm going to have you move it over because I have to be able to put 2 on that window.
Oh, okay.
If you could move it to the left, with enough room to get one more page in there.
Tell me when.
Looks great. Thank you.
awesome.
Okay, so it's the same internal primers. We've identified our strengths. These are things that are core assets of our city. Now we're going to talk about weaknesses. Again, we capitalize on strengths and we shore up on our weaknesses. So where can we improve? Same high level of thinking that you did for the strengths. Jesse, start us off.
Career opportunities.
Pardon me?
Career opportunities.
So the weakness is lack of career opportunities?
Tax base.
Limited tax base?
We need to build it.
Revenue stream.
Yeah, can we group that with revenue stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
Excellent. Good grouping. Yes?
Outreach and communication.
Okay.
Staffing, city staffing.
City staffing, limited city staffing, is that?
I think a city our size needs more, but we don't have the funds for it.
Got it.
And to build on that, we are not able to retain good staff because we don't pay them enough.
Right.
I'm going to put, if it's okay with you to put the retention piece up with the city staffing, that's a really good point. And, we work with a lot of different economic engines. And when you are under, what is the, where I live, it's 3.7. what's the unemployment rate here? Is it under 4?
Tim?
4.8, okay. So where I was going to go is that when you get under 4, most economists would consider that full employment. Okay, great.
So, Andrew,
Yes.
just a clarification with Lydia. So when we say outreach part, we're talking about awareness and education, providing opportunities for citizens to be more aware and educated. Is that, I would group that, I
It
would
would
also.
be that, including language, print in different languages, and dissemination of information. So we need to improve on that.
Okay, good.
Everybody, especially those of you with soft voices, eat the microphone. I can feel people behind me going, turn it up.
Should I repeat?
Would you mind? It's an important point.
So what I'm talking about is reaching out to the, in various languages, print, and also other ways, means of communicating, including utilizing our Channel 21, for instance.
It's really about dissemination and, talking about different languages, it's about our vision being inclusive, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so we have spent 4 of our bullets. Does anybody not have something up here?
Oh, I have something up there already, but I would think of our quality of life issues like the airport noise, the issues with open space that people are fighting in the community.
Okay, so that's a great point. Is there like an umbrella header that covers
Quality of
things?
life,
Pardon me?
quality of life issues.
E.g. airport noise. It's always good to have some specifics. Because quality of life is such a big category.
I was going to put that under threats.
Okay,
That's, because I think when we think about the threats to the.
You can't control that.
Right.
That is an outstanding point, because you can't control the airport. But
we'd like to.
would
We're-
you please
we're working on it.
would you write that down so we don't forget it?
Okay.
That's a really good point. That was a very good catch, Jim.
Well, we actually have a task force on this, so I guess it's debatable on how much impact we can have. We're attempting to have an impact on it.
Got it.
And the former chair of our task force is actually here, and we're engaging on a number of different task forces
Okay.
on that issue. So it's something that we can actually have input. and
What you're
impact on.
responding to it, and you
Right.
hope to have some influence, so it doesn't matter which of the 4 sheets it ends up on.
Yeah.
If it bubbles up to the top in terms of votes, it's going to be on the front burner.
But this is internal. The strength and the weakness are internal.
Yes, that's
Yes,
exactly right.
And that is external.
Right, that's exactly the point he was making. And
Okay.
I'm agreeing with him.
Thank you, okay.
And I asked Susan to write it down so we
Yep.
don't let that fall through the
Okay,
gaps.
all right.
Don't worry, Alon, it wakes us up every morning at 2.
What else? What are some other weaknesses that you think as a city we should shore up?
I mean, I would say diversity of business opportunities, but I already kind of said career, so I don't want to duplicate anything. But I think they are different. So by career opportunities, it was like,
It's more
pathways.
workforce.
Right, workforce
Workforce
pathways.
pathways.
And then business diversity is just different business structures that are here present in the city.
So the weakness is that we lack diversity in our existing businesses?
Yes.
Well, let's get it up there.
Andrew, what about something to the effect of the way people perceive Federal Way, perception? Would
I
that
would
be
say
weak-
that'd be a threat.
Would that be a threat? Okay.
However, to Lydia's point, Lydia, I'm never going to get that right. It's part of my Lex
Yes,
Dixia.
you are.
What's that?
You're going to get that right.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yes.
I've been calling Deanie the wrong name all morning, too. I look at Jim and Susan, I don't usually screw those up. But anyway, to Lydia's point, a more effective outreach and communications can have an impact on perception.
Yeah.
So there's things you can do to control that, but you will see on the external primers that citizens fall out there. What other weaknesses do we want to be mindful of? And by the way, the 8 is a maximum, not a minimum. Let's do this. Let's move to the external list. We'll put it up there, knowing that we have a couple bullets, and if something surfaces, we can add to it. Bless you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to employ your help. This one is going to go in the center window at the very left edge.
Right.
Thank you very much.
It's like a block exercise.
What's that?
It's like a block exercise.
There you go.
Can I add one to that, maybe?
Sure.
Partnerships with various entities and/or,
So, lack of strategic partnerships?
Or
Is that-
maybe expanding that? Expanding partnerships?
Well, that would be a strategy. We're
Okay,
not
okay.
doing strategy. What we're focused on is just the weaknesses.
Okay.
And to see which conditions surface. So lack of strategic partnerships, does that work for you? Isn't that ironic? I can't spell and I make my living writing on a wall. Okay, great. So we're a little bit of a change here. When we go external, we have a different set of primers. So here are the 8 external primers. Some of you may have be aware of an environmental scan or a pest analysis. And so that's what those first 4 are. Political, economy, social, technology. When I say political, we're talking big P. You know, all 3 branches of government, local, state, federal, it's big P. And there are often opportunities and threats. The economy, we can't control it, but it makes a big difference. And those same economists that tell us that under 4% unemployment is full employment will also tell you that the likelihood of a recession inside of 2 years is pretty strong. We're in the longest bull market we've had since World War II. Then you get below that, and we've got customer, consumer, competitor, and industry. So customer, you can change that to your citizens and your businesses that operate within your city. Consumers, that could relate to tourism. It could relate to drawing people in to enjoy our amenities. Customers are who we have, our businesses, our residents. Consumers are who we want. In B2B channel distribution, it means something completely different, but specific to cities. Competitors. We live in a zero-sum economy in most categories, meaning that if we are going to increase tourism or any other element of economic development, that will come at a loss with another jurisdiction. We don't have control over them, but they can help us. Of course, the threat side of it is that they could hurt us. These lists are often shorter, just because we don't have as much information. Start us off, Susan.
Oh, I was just trying your little bullets there.
Making sure I have 8?
Yeah.
That's good. That's
So
great.
I would say an opportunity would be growth in businesses of medical or technology firms.
Okay, so growth in the medical and technology sectors is how you would write it as an opportunity. Great.
Oh, that was me.
I'm sorry.
We can give you credit for it. We could give you credit for medical, and we'll give you credit for technology.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Only because we looked at it several years ago.
Yes.
The need for higher higher ed in Federal Way, or higher ed in the region.
So would that be a threat, lack of higher ed in our region?
I think it's it's an opportunity.
Well, the opportunity would be to attract higher ed, right? And so that's a strategy. So we can develop a strategy off an opportunity or a threat, or any of our strengths or weaknesses. So if we have lack of higher ed in Federal Way, I'd put that as a threat, because we don't have what we want, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't surface to something that we want to focus on. So would you write down lack of higher ed so I don't forget it? Just like you've got a list going for me for threats.
The opportunity could be increasing higher education.
No, that would be the strategy.
Okay.
That's the decision. It's a very fine line between strategy and opportunity. The idea is opportunities and threats, the ones that surface to the top based on your sticky dots, those are the ones that you see to develop strategy around.
We've got opportunity for growth in our downtown. In our downtown, we've got parcels of land.
The opportunity is we have parcels of land. Okay.
Open space being developed.
Developable land.
Yeah, we could be competing with them for higher ed, right?
And tourism.
And tourism, and yeah, a whole bunch of areas. Great. So are we good
Yeah.
with this 8? Okay. So what I'm going to do before we vote, especially since you guys are so efficient, we're ahead of time again, I'm going to read all of them so the people in the back of the room don't have to feel like they're in an eye exam. But a lot of it has to do with you, in case you come up with a new idea that you want to replace, to add. So, by the way, when we do the exercise, we catalog our conditions between internal and external. But when we vote and develop strategy, we think about them in terms of assets over here that are green, or liabilities that are here in red. So our assets, our citizens, our city staff, our location, we're talking about the environment, the water, just look out here. That's the strength. Our parks, the amenities, which means our parks, movie nights, programming, and infrastructure, lack of potholes, professional groups, associations, and clubs, great neighborhoods, favorable tax structure, and our business community are all strengths. External opportunities that we may or may not choose to seize include growth and advancements in the medical and technology sectors. Open parcels of developable land represents an opportunity, and it's actually a strength, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to get rid of it. The importance of our local labor parties, the importance of nonprofits and our faith communities, the growing population of young professionals, bless you, growing population of seniors, growing diversity in citizens and businesses. And by the way, we still have a bullet open there. Now we go to liabilities in terms of weaknesses that we have control over. Lack of career and career path opportunities, limited tax base and revenue streams, outreach and communications, limited city staffing and retention, lack of diversity of our businesses, lack of strategic partnerships, lack of partnerships with businesses, and we do have one opening there, pardon me, and external threats outside of our control that we may choose to strategize against. Quality of life issues specifically related to airport noise, traffic, crime, and lack of open spaces, lack of affordable housing inventory, lack of higher education options in the city, the growing addiction and mental health issues, negative perception of federal way, potential economic downturn, increases in homelessness, and competing jurisdictions. So even though we've got a couple openings, I'm not bidding for you to fill them. So there's two things we're looking at here. One is there another idea that needs to be up there, that's substantial? The second thing that we always do before we vote is that it's important that all 8 of you are crystal clear on what each of these bullets means. It's hard to vote on something that you're not really clear on. So I'm just going to give you a minute to review those. And if any of you see something up there that you would like clarity on, your colleagues will provide that clarity. So each of you has a set of 4 strips of 3. We're going to use the same rules as we did before, and Susan, I'm sorry, you can't put more than 1 dot on a bullet. Darn. But the idea is you're going to do 1 strip of 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3 here. You can't put 2 1s on this, okay? So you think of them vertically as you're going to spend 1, 2, 3 on each of these 4 areas. And just like before, no more than one dot per bullet. One is what you would identify as your greatest strength or best opportunity. One identifies your greatest weakness or the most dangerous threat. And again, that gets tallied as 3 points. Number 2 would be your second highest priority, regardless of which page, and 3 is your third. So if there are no questions, go ahead and vote. Oh, I stole your votes. Surface, and so the office can't. We'll get it to you. I might be able to. So in terms of the assets, the top vote-getting asset at 18 votes is a strength, our location, the environments, what you see here. Tied as 18 votes and opportunity is growth and advances in medical and tech sectors. So the idea is this will inform our goal setting, right? And next place at 13 votes, strength, is our citizens. And in fourth place at 10 votes is the growing diversity in our citizens in business. On the liability side, the top vote getter, in fact, it's the top vote getter in the entire portfolio at 21 votes, is limited tax base and revenue streams. The second highest vote getter at 16 votes was a threat, increase in homelessness. Next is at 12 votes, a weakness, limited city staffing, and it's hard to hold on to folks. And then we've got a tie, both at 9 votes on threats. Quality of life, this is dealing with the airport, traffic, crime, open spaces. Also at 9 votes, addiction and mental health issues. So when we move into our goal setting session, and we'll do some stage setting when we get there, it is the assets and the liabilities that that are circled that we're going to look at. Sue Peterson, if you'd like to come forward.
My name is Sue Peterson.
Can you speak a little closer to the microphone, please? Thank you. That's all right. Don't be sorry.
My name is Sue Peterson. I am here representing the Marine Hills Airplane Steering Committee, and I am also a member of Quiet Skies Puget Sound. Over the past couple of years, we have spoken to this council, emailed some of you with information concerning the increase in airplane activity. We know that CTAC's master plans are to increase airplane activity over the residents of Federal Way. Our quality of life is threatened. We'd like you to consider these facts. We recognize the jobs and other economic benefit the airport provides to Federal Way, but that benefit does not justify creating a sacrificial corridor over Federal Way residents, along with the serious noise and health impacts of its aircraft overflights. The third runway has gone from a north flow landings of 643 in 2013 to 4 years later having 3,839. A 6 times increase in 4 years. This puts many planes directly over Federal Way homes where there were none 10 years ago. Given the 30% increase in flights since 2014, long-suffering Marine Hills and other residents under the flight plan now have reached the breaking point. Worse yet, the port has published future development plans to handle up to 66 million passengers a year and triple air cargo, especially during nighttime hours. What we in Marine Hills are doing. Last fall, we formed a steering committee that held a community meeting to update Marine Hills residents on the serious environmental impacts caused by current airport operations and its future plans. Nearly 100 residents attended and signed a petition to the Port of Seattle Commission demanding reduction in overflight health and noise impacts. We met with Port Commission candidates before the November election to share our concerns and ideas for mitigating those impacts. We encouraged our neighborhood to regularly file complaints with the CTAC Noise Office, especially after incredibly noisy air cargo flights that wake us up in the middle of the night. We attend Quiet Skies Coalition meetings, the Highline Forum, and other overflight impact meetings to closely monitor community actions activities locally and nationally. We need the help of you and our city. Your assigned council and representatives should attend all Highline Forum meetings and keep the rest of the council and the mayor's office informed of CTAC activities and plans. We ask that you partner with cities to our north that are analyzing and commenting on the latest draft of the airport master development plan
Sue, we're out of time. Could you give a closing remark?
after its increase in the near future. It is important that the City of Federal Way hold the Port of Seattle and CTAC accountable for its adverse impacts on Federal Way and actively support our community's efforts to demand mitigations.
Thank you, Sue. Next, I'd like to call up Rebecca Martin, please.
Hello. Becca Martin, I am the President and CEO of the Greater Federal Way Chamber of Commerce, and I'm delighted actually to be here today. First, I do want to apologize for my passionate outburst earlier. This is such a great process, and I wanted to clarify the taxonomy of where the chamber is in case you may not be familiar, because I didn't want this facilitation to go,
My opinion doesn't matter here.
Yes.
You're directing towards council.
yes, I know that. So the chamber is not a social service professional organization, but it is a powerful network of business leadership whose vision is to promote economic prosperity in the South Sound region, just as we go further on that. I want to thank you today also for opening the doors for working even closer with the business community. We share a number of the same issues that have been identified today, notably attracting minority businesses and diversifying the economic base in our region and the hub of Federal Way as a city. We are also looking to build a sustainable tax base with the recruitment and retention of business. I would like to urge you in your vision statement to consider some business-friendly language. It is businesses that will recruit and retain a workforce that will choose to live in Federal Way, and we do want to send the signal that we are in fact open for business, for work, not just as a great multicultural place to live, which it is. Also, I want to thank you for your renewing the pivotal partnership, and we are looking forward to working with the city at the economic development table this year. There are great things happening, and I think working together we are going to hit a greater good that makes sure that our community is sustainable for those who live here and those who work for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
And just as by way of announcement, Becca, before you leave, just this past week, we did renew and we signed the Pivotal Partnership Agreement, and we've re-upped for another year. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Excellent. John, if you'd like to come forward.
I'd like to follow any other comments about the airport, if there are any.
I'm just doing them in the order that I've got them, sir. Please come forward and share your comments.
Please don't start my time until I get seated and start talking.
I will wait to your first word.
Thank you, Council and Mayor, for this opportunity to hear from the citizens and your excellent boarding session in this process. As you all know, I was active in 2017 as the chair of the Mayor's Task Force. I resigned on January 9th, and so I'm here representing nothing other than my own point of view. Federal Way in recent years has been AWOL from the SeaTac issue. The 2015 process of an environmental assessment to do the international terminal expansion, spend the best part of $1 billion, was allowed to occur under an environmental assessment instead of under an appropriate NEPA-CEPA process. That lack of engagement has continued, and so I call for the council to have a study session of 1 hour to review the question of how active is Federal Way going to be with respect to the SeaTac upcoming master plan that's been described and other related issues. I'm not going to say anything about why it's important for you to do that. You already know why. I think the council should form a 3-person CTAC caucus to review what's going on, keep informed, and to make policy proposals as appropriate come before the council. There's 2 kinds of policies that could be involved. One category would be policies whose execution requires the spending of money. But there's a second category of policy, and that is that shows leadership. And this morning there was a one-line item in there about having King County and other cities look to the leadership and creativity of Federal Way, and that's exactly what this second category of policy is that I'm speaking about. You can have an impact without having to spend money, but you have to act. And it is the council that sets the policy for the city, and the staff then is looked to execute policy. The Port of Seattle Commission has changed in some of its membership, and we've observed a change in attitude. Recent Port of...
Can you give us some closing comments?
Yes. Partner with adjacent cities, work with the Port of Seattle new commission with new attitudes, and the Port of Seattle Commission has a problem because they've got a bureaucracy that hasn't gotten the word that times have changed and the idea of a social license is vital. And if Federal Way is going to have the full impact, it requires a partnership with the adjacent cities, and it requires a partnership with those new commissioners. And you can do that by having a council CTAC caucus. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, Dana or Dana Holloway. How do you pronounce your first name? Dana. Okay, Dana.
Following the same trend that you've been hearing, airplane noise and emissions are negatively affecting our community. This is a real and increasing problem that affects the quality of life and health of residents and schools. I would like to see a stronger commitment by the mayor and the city council members in partnering with other cities in addressing the airplane noise and emissions, by having Mayor Farrell and a council member actively participating and attending every Highline Forum. The Highline Forum membership is made up of mayors, city council members, and/or city managers of cities such as SeaTac, Buren, Des Moines, Normandy Park, Tukwila, along with representatives, the SeaTac Airport, and the Port of Seattle. And we know that they're making decisions that affect this community. And we need our elected officials there so that you can represent us, because we think it's a problem that's not being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. Okay, that concludes our public comment period.
Andrew, I do want to follow up in regard to air traffic noise. We do have, I did put together an Quiet and Healthy Skies Task Force. I will be meeting with them this Wednesday and talking with them. We're waiting for not waiting, they're going to be preparing recommendations to me for actions moving forward. We do also, Yarden Weidenfeld, our senior policy advisor in my office, regularly attends the Highline Forum, and we've also, Lydia Seppa Dawson is actually also the council designated representative of the Highline Forum.
Get your attention to the screen would be to share the framework that we're going to use in our goal development process. It's essentially a very straightforward 3-step exercise that I will be documenting on the flip charts and will be informed by your vision and your SWOT. So we're going to begin by brainstorming and just creating a list. You know, it's really short, you know, almost like the headlines exercise, 4 to 7 words in terms of goal ideas for the City of Federal Way to achieve the city vision. It's very fast-paced, no discussion or judgment. It's the exact same process as when we were playing with headlines, just very short and rapid. And then we'll spend some time in discussing it in the same way we did with the vision and go through the consolidation process. We've all done that before. I'll probably start using the windows back here. And the idea is that we can group, delete similar ideas, and narrow down. We're going to prioritize using sticky dots again. You see that you have one more strip of 3, and that's what we're going to use it for. We want to consolidate it down to the top 5. And I'm going to...
Well, it's sub 3 was reduce homelessness with all its subcategories.
So there's a couple points I want to make. Number 1 was number 1 at 24 votes, increase sustainable revenue streams. Number 2 at 17 votes, economic development. Number 3 at 8 votes. So the third had only 1/3 as many votes as the first, which doesn't mean it's not important, but it's to reduce homelessness is the big category. Now what's interesting, and I talked with some of the council members about this, the multimodal citizen communications, you could say, / engagement, didn't get any votes. And so what I suggested to those that had some heartburn on that it should be a subline under all 3 of those. That there should be a citizen communication and engagement element of increasing sustainable revenue streams. Here is knowing that I am going to append all of these with the sub-bullets, and one of the subs has 2 sub-subs, right? And also we'll be adding multimodal citizen communications and engagement to each of these 3. I want to look at these and just have them as kind of standalone statements. They don't need to be a book. Hopefully they're really short. But for example, increase sustainable revenue streams. Boom, that's the goal. Vision statement, Federal Way will be the most inclusive, responsive, and safe city in the region. We know that in terms of addressing our current situation, we're going to capitalize on the strength of our citizens and the strength of our location and our environment. We know that we are going to seize opportunities in the growth and advancement of medical and technical sectors, as well as growing the diversity of both our citizens and our business. You see how this is lining up over here? In terms of dealing with the liabilities, we are going to deal with the limited tax base and focus on developing sustainable revenue streams. Boom, that's what created that. And that, in fact, will be the chicken to dealing with this egg in terms of limited city staffing and our retention issue. All goes back to revenue. We're also going to be focused on quality of life issues, specifically airport, traffic, crime, and open spaces. Airport, number 1. Also, with the focus on dealing with addiction and mental health issues, because don't you think that's a comorbidity of homelessness? Yeah. You can't unpack those, right? And we're going to deal with the increase of homelessness. In fact, you've established it as your council's 3rd priority. And as a reminder that our intrepid finance director shared, these are 2-year goals. All of that's going to be packed under this, and it will allow the budgeting process and the priorities of our staff to be in line with council priorities, which are our primary goals for the next biennium is to increase sustainable revenue streams, to fully fund city budget and programs. Second, to enhance economic development activities to maximize opportunities in Federal Way, and to develop a plan to reduce homelessness. Now let's hear it. Nice work. Awesome. What do you think?
It's on there.
I'm calling this a strategic plan. Publish strategic plan on city website.
We'll put it on Facebook too. We'll get it out there.
I can say website and social media channels.
Yeah.
Great.
Also,
So this will be in the report also. I mean, we've got the parking lot item, in terms of developing a set of core values. But the next steps, I already articulated what marketing solutions, what my company and my team will be doing. And by the way, I'll have all that to you by close of business Wednesday.
Great.
So you're not going to be waiting for it long.
Thank you.
You bet. And then in terms of next steps, focus work on report outcomes, publish strategic plan on city website and social media channels. Are there any other critical next steps that we need to document? Okay, awesome.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I do want to say that we appreciate all of the residents that are here. Really appreciate the staff and your input and your help with this process and all the work you do every day. And it's great to see the residents. We had the newspaper here, which we appreciate, and our partners with the Chamber of Commerce, and individuals expressing interest in various issues, and the comments that we heard about air traffic noise and other issues. You know, this is my 14th retreat. And I have to tell you, by far, by leaps and bounds, it is absolutely the best. And I just want to say thank you to my policy partners, the council. You did a phenomenal job. I was really proud. I'm really proud of the product that we put out, and really just the collaboration and the partnership and the vision. And I think that we did. I want to say thank you to Councilmember Honda and the committee for your work and making sure, and to Andrew, to make sure that we really, you knocked it out of the ballpark. Thank you very much. And so I just want to say thank you very much. It was a great process, and next year we're going to have a ton of people here. We'll have a bunch of ice cream, and and I'm not kidding. And chocolate. And I love the idea of having the citizens, you know, the residents with different colored dots and the staff, I would be fascinated to see this kind of input. So I just want to say great job, everybody. Really proud of this.
And I'd like to thank the staff, because this wouldn't have happened without the staff being involved. I know Thomas and Andrew were talking last night, and we're here early making sure that the mics worked, and they did work when we got here, you know, at 7 o'clock. If you talked into them, they work really well. I'd like to thank the council for your work. We put this together in less than a month, and because it's only been a month since we've actually, you know, been together as a new council. So I'm looking forward to 2018. I think this is an exciting year. I think this was a wonderful retreat. And if there's any input or any information you want me to know about the retreat today, if you could email me, but just me, not the group. We don't want to break any laws. And let me know what your thoughts and your concerns if you have any. But thank you very much, and thank you for coming. We really appreciate everyone being here today.
All right. All right, thank you.